Machine Pencil Cartography. This channel's goals are to teach its audience how to navigate in diverse geographical environments. Today, I will take the opportunity to instruct my audience about techniques that should be used while navigating in bathymetric and hydrological environments. Today, we will focus on techniques that will help you navigate in a handful of bathymetric environment types, including navigating in lacustrine environments, navigating in riparian environments, and also navigating near ephemeral water bodies. Lacustrine environments represent lake systems. These are unique water features that are fairly large. Lacustrine environments are places that will often support active maritime communities. The lakes are a focal piece of these cultures. Many people's houses will have community spaces that are oriented towards the water. It is common for members of these maritime communities to go swimming and fishing for recreation. And it is also common for members of these communities to practice navigational disciplines such as sailing. Lakes are water bodies that are usually larger than 1 hectare in surface area and can often be larger than 2.5 square kilometers in surface area. In this way, lakes are larger than ponds, but lakes are much smaller than oceans or seas. Since lakes are usually formed in the center of large continents, one common navigational routine is for the navigator to be tasked with circumnavigating the lake. This might involve walking 5 to 10 miles along the circumference of the water body. This exercise is standard practice, and an expert navigator should be expected to be familiar with this exercise as they progress. The second geographical environment where bathymetric navigation techniques might be applied are when you are navigating near riparian features, either during the performance of river walks or during the performance of wet river crossings, known as fording operations, as these operations frequently require the pedestrian to get their feet wet. These techniques are well outlined in my video about river walking, so I will refer you there to learn more about riparian navigation techniques. The final bathymetric environment set aside for discussion today will be ephemeral water bodies. When we examine many orienteering maps, the maps will display a water body with hash mark shading patterns. This pattern will represent a seasonal water body that is present for part of the year and is absent at other times of the year. The International Standard for Orienteering Maps classifies these water features as palustrian marshes. Next, we will discuss the different ergonomic swimming techniques that are available for pedestrians encountering water. The two main techniques available are wading in water and treading in water. Wading in water is my preferred technique, since it is easier and more convenient than treading in water. The wading technique could only be performed when the water level is low enough for the pedestrian to stand on the bottom of the water body. The limitations of this technique are that it could only be performed under specific environmental conditions. Therefore, you will be restricted to only using this technique when the environmental conditions permitted its use. Treading water is the second technique, and this technique will be used when you can't reach the bottom. There are multiple different techniques for treading water. The most skilled swimmers will use a variant of a floating technique instead of doggy paddling the entire time, since treading water requires a large energy output simply for staying on the water surface, and these floating techniques will significantly reduce the energy requirements. Therefore, learning to perform floating techniques is great advice. It is also great advice to purchase personal flotation devices, or PFDs, because these will considerably improve your ability to stay on the water's surface. When possible, you should avoid entering any water body that you would have to tread on, because orienteering is a landward sport, and swimming in very deep water is considered to be a hazardous activity. The chances of drowning while treading over deep water are much higher than your chances of drowning while wading. Finally, here are a few tips for waterproofing. While keeping your chattels safe from water, keeping them in your pants pocket while you are wading is not an option. Just imagine wading in water while you hold your cell phone in your pants pocket. This is obviously a bad idea. The Nouvelle solution to this would be to take your cargo out of your pockets and to suspend them above the water surface while you wade. You can achieve this by placing them in your backpack so that they are located higher on your body as you wade. The advanced solution to keeping your cargo safe around water is to design a submersible solution. The phrase waterproofing is usually applied when you are preparing water-vulnerable objects so that they could survive being submersed under the water's surface. There are two levels of water protection. Your equipment is either water-resistant or waterproof. To comprehend the difference, I would suggest that you find water-resistant clothing articles, such as water-resistant boots. I will also suggest wearing wool socks when going into water because they will dry out faster than cotton socks. There are also wading pants or rain pants available on the market, which are made out of water-resistant fabrics. These fabrics are designed to dry quicker than standard materials. The most common waterproofing technique will involve using a dry bag. These are watertight bladders that you place your hydrophobic cargo into so that your dry bag will keep them dry. It is legitimate to notice that these dry bags should not have any holes in them. Therefore, you must be extra careful not to allow these bags to be handled roughly, or for these bags to be punctured by environmental hazards such as thorn bushes, since this is an example of an environmental hazard that might puncture a dry bag. It would be very cool if your dry bag featured a working form of scarpa, which is a high denier covering. This is important so as to prevent your dry bags from being punctured by thorns or other environmental hazards. Theoretically, you could get a high denier bag cover to protect your dry bag from thorns. In the event that your dry bags are punctured, we are not beyond hope. There are techniques available to repair punctured dry bags. These techniques involve using waterproof patches and waterproof glue so that you can patch the hole, and this would result in a working dry bag once again. My research has suggested that the best solution is to apply the Flex Seal products, since these products are advertised as being capable of creating watertight seals. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Machine Pencil Cartography, signing out.